ordeal. I mean, this week's deeply moving presentation. And with us this week is Dawne Walters. She, well, Dawne, why don't you just do your own intro? You know you better than I do.
Oh God, I hate this part. And they do this in interviews too. Tell us a little about yourself. Oh God. I am a supporting cast member to a bunch of great humans, actually. My name is Dawne Walters. I am a mother of two fantastic young gentlemen. One is actually an Army recruiter who's getting ready to go to Korea soon. And my youngest son, who's more like his mother than either of us care to admit, Steven, is a master barber. He and his fiance just had a new baby. She's about a month old, a little over a month old. So yeah, it's pretty fantastic. We're pretty excited. I have two little fur beasts, Sanchez and Ruben. Sanchez is a Chihuahua and Ruben is a Jack Russell. He's running around here, probably right there. I work for the Department of Defense, 21 and a half years. That's active duty and civil service. And I work at the Jacksonville MEPS. So yeah, that's me.
Now, were you the first female medic in the first wave into Baghdad, or if you can, just expand on that? So
my crew chiefs were like, Doc, you're like one of the first females in Iraq on a helicopter. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, probably not Army wide. And they thought it was kind of funny flying into Iraq over the berm. They're like, yeah, Doc, what? And I'm like, oh, you guys are crazy. And then when we landed at Baghdad, I'm not aware of any other females that had flown in before me. But it was kind of a standing joke. There was never anything official or anything like that. But it was kind of a standing joke that I was one of the, if not the first, the second or third female that had landed in Baghdad on a UH-60 helicopter to a couple of A-10s dancing with some anti-aircraft fire about a mile off of our nose. It was awesome.
And so you were an Army medic or a flight surgeon?
So no, I was a medic for the Aviation Brigade for 2-3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So So we were the flight surgeons are the physicians, and then you have all of your medics.
Right.
So what we did at Hunter, our colonel, the Aviation Brigade commander, wanted this team, and it was like the Army's answer or his answer to like a CSAR or a DART team that the Air Force had.
Okay.
So he wanted a command and control bird, and he wanted 2 aircraft UH-60s slicked out with nothing in it. And our budget was amazing. They gave us extraction tools. They gave us all kinds of stuff to, like the Israeli dressings, and they made sure that we were stacked. Wow. He coordinated with one of the commanders down in Fort Stewart to get a team of infantry guys. And so we were split on 2 different helicopters. And the idea was when we uploaded the patient on mine, then, or whoever the alternate medic was, then all of the infantry would collapse on the second helicopter. And sometimes we would go in tandem, and then sometimes we would just do stuff on our own. I think because we were slicked out, because we weren't dust off, we had weapons, the old Vietnam era M60s, and those things were horrible. You could shoot 7 rounds and they would jam. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was brutal. Oh yeah. And when you're out there and every time you land in the sand, you brown out. So just dirt everywhere. It was horrible. They were constantly cleaning those things. Okay. Go ahead.
So Dawne, you said something, and as the Nate and Andrew told you already, I served 22 years as a Navy corpsman. So
wow.
A medic only in the Navy, right? And so this was 2003 that you're talking about,
Right.
the initial
This
push.
is the initial push into Iraq. Yeah. This was the initial push into Iraq.
So you said you weren't, and so you said you weren't initially known as Dust Off, and that's how I've always known all of the medevac.
Yeah.
And I went through in 2003 in the initial invasion as well. So I wasn't aware that there was a different, I guess, group or section that wasn't technically Dust Off.
Yeah, this was the colonel's answer to that. We were with 3rd ID, 3rd Infantry Division, and not a lot of people knew that we were there. But there were several times where the dust off, I think it was from Hood, they were kind of attached to the division going forward, and then we lost track of them because if it was, they call it all-weather, what is it? Fair weather pilots, all-weather aircraft, and they would wave off so many times. Yellow smoke would pop and they would wave off. And they're like, hey, send your IPR team because, hey, they have weapons and we don't. We have M9s on our side and that's all we have. I can tell you that we didn't respond to a lot of those. We did more accidents and stuff. I flew more with just like without the team sometimes than I did with the team, because it was like, hey, we have this engineer mission and we're going to go blow up some stuff. We need a medic to go with us. Okay, cool. We were a GSAB unit. We were General Support Aviation. Hunter didn't get their dust off units until 2006 after I got out.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we were considered special mission. We were the immediate personnel recovery team. Once people realized we were there, hey, if they were stranded and they needed a ride, sometimes, I mean, we got launched for 100 camels at one point. The Air Force was like, hey, you've got some movement. Looks like 100 and something. We're not sure what. And we launched for 100 camels. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, it was cool, but we got launched for 100 camels.
It's a great reason to go get cigarettes. Oh, wrong camels. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. You are hilarious, by the way. My interactions with you. I mean, Todd Cardone knew what the hell he was doing when he put the two of us together.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been fantastic. It's been a great week, let me tell you. It really has.
Good.
Yeah. But when we first... oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
No, when we first took off, though, we were told we're not an invasion. We're not an invading mission. We're a liberating mission.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, and so the media really, really fed into that. Oh, my God, they're invading Iraq. No, honey. Yep. Did you not listen to the mission statement? We are a liberating mission. And
right. And for a lot of people that don't know that, believe it or not, all of our FOBs and our vehicles and, helos, technically, we weren't supposed to be flying the American flag on it because of that reason. We weren't invading that country.
Yeah.
At all. We're liberating them. They went
through, take all your flags down, all of them.
Yep.
And pack them up. So it was, when I was there, when we were there, it was Camp Udari. Now it's Camp Buring, I think, is the major one. And it's just kind of funny because we were there when it was just a clamshell and a bunch of tents, sleeping tents, and our dining facility caught on fire. It was awesome. They were welding. The workers were up there welding, and some sparks had hit the fabric, and that thing went fast.
Oh man!
And some genius thought it would be really cool to put 2 fuel helmets right next to the dining facility. So they had to, a couple friends of mine, actually, they were refuelers. They jumped in those suckers real fast and fired them up and got them out of harm's way, because it was blazing. We actually made national news for that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we did. It was awesome. It was awesome.
But let me just throw something in here. Dawn and I were talking about that before. You go in as liberators, and then you get relabeled by the media as invaders. What we do with this podcast is we talk about mental health and how the military is misrepresented by the media. I mean, something like that doesn't cause post-traumatic stress disorder, but I imagine for you guys, it's got to aggravate the hell out of it. And I was wondering if we could get like a little discussion going about that.
It does, for sure, because, you're told, the division commander came to Camp Buring, and you've got all of Aviation Brigade there, 1-3, 2-3. I think the Cav came over, a couple infantry battalions came over, and he got up on his soapbox, and he sat there and pounded his fist in his hand, and he said, "We are liberators. This is a dictatorship that has taken over. We are liberating these people. We are not invading their country." So like we were talking about, you had to take all of your flags down. We were on a flight line of just like CH-47s and UH-60s and Apache helicopters. Oh, go guns. And because there's so many, I had brought my big pirate flag with me, and I sewed it onto the blade rope so that I could find it. And it kind of plays with you. And when you come home, people want to talk to you about how did the invasion go and stuff like that. And you're like, what are you talking about, man? We're not an invasion. I can tell you, when it first started, it was kind of weird. I was reading The Greatest Generation by Tom Brokaw. And it kind of puts into perspective how bad you don't really have it while you're deployed. And how bad these guys did in World War I and World War II. And I was reading that in my bunk, and I remember Captain Adamowski, he's like, "All right, guys, everybody rally up. They've started." And one of the pilots goes, "What do you mean they're a day early?" He goes, "Yep, they started early." So we were sitting when the airstrikes first started going over and stuff like that, because we're just a couple miles from the berm into Iraq, right. And we're sitting on the flight line, huddled. Those little AM/FM radios that have the big speaker and the little cassette thing, and the little buttons that you can push for the different stations. We were huddled around this little radio. There was a bunch of us there, and it was crazy. Americans have invaded Iraq, and the only station we could get was the BBC, and they were not happy with us. And I mean, the British SAS were there. We had traded MREs before they went over, because they were on Camp Udari as well. And they were not happy, man. The world was on fire with how the U.S. was just invading this innocent country. And,
right.
Here we're told, take down your flags. You are liberators. Be friendly with the people.
Yep.
I imagine you guys ran into the same thing, something like that.
Yeah. No, I can totally understand that. It's always great when you have people that served in the same time frame and in the same campaigns, right? Because me coming from the Marine Corps side of the house, even though I was a Navy corpsman, I did most of all my deployments with the Marines. Our mindset was, we're just going over there to kick some ass. They brought the fight to us.
Yeah.
Let us go. And, I remember from September 11th, 2001 up until January 7th, when we boarded the ships to get sent over to Kuwait to stage, for all those almost 2 years, we're like, when are we going there? When are we getting paid back? Why are we just sitting here? Was probably every Marine's question. And when we got into country, and it was, maybe like a week or two after we actually crossed the line. Like you said, we staged on the berm on the night of the 19th. And I remember seeing the planes fly overhead and us shooting the missiles over to start not the invasion, but President Bush at that time said, major conflict has begun with the country of Iraq, was what he stated. When I came home, when that speech was given to us in country, take all your flags down, we're not an invading country, where it hurt me inside was things like when you Google March 23rd, 2003, Battle of Al-Nasiriyah, however you want to look it up, there's a famous picture of an AAV with the American flag hoisted on top of it, and a lot of black smoke around it. And the reason that flag was put on top of the AAV, a lot of people don't know this story, was at that time Sergeant Schaefer, who retired as a gunnery sergeant, was the lead of a 12-vehicle convoy. And, as a convoy, you're in a straight line until you're either knowing you're about to make contact or you have already made contact and now you have to gain field superiority. So that's what happened with us. We made contact, got ambushed. Our comms, fog of war, comms went down. So he, in the middle of an ambush, duct taped the American flag, got back on the radio and said, I'm the lead element. Follow me, follow me, follow me.
Oh, wow.
And to me, where it hurt me was the fact that as cliche or as, however you want to call it, patriotic or whatever, to me it was the symbol of the nation that I was fighting alongside my brothers and sisters. Well, I was in an all-male unit at that time, alongside all my brothers. That symbol is what led us to be able to gain fire superiority. Somebody hoisting our colors and saying, here we are. The sad thing is I don't have a good taste for A-10 Warhogs, because if you look in the investigation report too, they also strafed us. And we said, kind of like you said, hey, we're popping the friendly smoke. We even had an American flag up and we're still getting told, nope. You aren't Americans. There's no, we're not invading. So they kept dropping their rounds on top of us. But when I came home and people were like, oh, so you're part of the initial invasion. I don't know if maybe because I stayed in for 22 years and that happened so early on in my career that, I was like, it was an invasion or it was a liberation, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. The fact is I still had a lot of brothers and sisters in 22 years die over those two wars. And I know we're mainly talking about the Iraq, Operation Iraqi Freedom part of it. But to me, it just came down to, regardless of how we called it, I have brothers and sisters that are still over there that we haven't returned home. So I didn't take too much offense to it, but I could see where you're coming from, how you said that misrepresentation of what it is that we're actually doing over there can lead to a lot of people forming their own opinions on, what it is that we were doing there.
Yeah, well, it's crazy too, because when we came back to Savannah, because I was at Hunter Army Airfield, I would say most of the population was pretty, hey, yeah, you guys are back, let me buy your dinner or whatever. And I'm like, no. I'm just a girl. And I've always maintained this. I'm just a girl who loved doing the job that she was afforded to be able to do. I loved my job. To me, it wasn't a chore.
Yeah.
It was something I loved doing. But, every now and again, you go out to lunch in uniform and there's always anti-war protesters and people that don't believe in stuff like that. Yeah, it turned ugly quite a bit in several different spots and stuff. And you get that one person. And I mean, this chick came up to me and I was at lunch with a couple friends and we're all in uniform. And she walked right up to me for whatever reason. And she goes, "You deployed?" And I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I did." She called me a baby killer. I'm like,
What?
"Ma'am, that would be kind of hard considering I'm a medic." And
Yeah.
she got so mad. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm with
Right.
3 other dudes and she calls me the baby killer. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Is this your feminist way of striking out at me or something?" I was so confused,
Right.
and I was like, "Okay, thank you, ma'am." just kept walking.
Yeah. You know, what I've come to tell people is, I don't expect anyone to support the war.
No.
I mean, if you ask me now, Luis Fonseca, as a civilian, I'm retired now. I'll be honest, you know, I think 2 wars that cost a lot of great human beings their life at the cost of, or at the gain of what? If you ask me, at the gain of nothing.
Yeah.
It was, and that's just my opinion. Not nothing. It doesn't represent the Navy. It doesn't
Right.
represent Hospital Corpsmen, and definitely doesn't represent the 3 of you all.
Right.
It was pointless. So what I tell people is like, I don't expect anyone to support the war, but don't spit on the people that were ordered to do a mission and then went out and accomplished it in an honorable way.
On the nose.
So that's it.
Reworded, if I may. It's okay not to support the war, but never fail to support the warrior.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, you know, a true, genuine warrior, you know, because unfortunately, even within our ranks, you know, if I may ask you all, and you don't have to answer, but let's be a little bit honest, even amongst all our ranks, there are unfortunate some people that slip in and for some whatever reason, could be a mental health issue, right? They truly kind of just enjoy that, you know? I mean, we've had people go on trial for war crimes, right?
Yeah.
Because they were unnecessary killings. And I'm not going to speak on those. I wasn't there. I wasn't part of the jury. I wasn't the judge or the executioner on those, you know, on those cases, but we've heard them,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why I said those true, genuine warriors that went out there and honorably, you know, followed their orders. Like, you know, don't spit on us for having to do a job that allows you to verbally express how much you hate what I did, and me stand back and say, yeah, I wore the cloth that allows any human being in the United States to say, hey, you suck, and me able to be able to walk away, right? Because there's some nations that don't, right? Don't get that even that freedom. So
yeah, there's not that equality with other nations, for sure. You know.
Correct.
Is that somebody's dog?
So yeah, so that's one thing you will notice. We are a very friendly, open, family-oriented vlog. So maybe a kid or two might run into one of our video segments.
Because I've got a dog right
And
here, and I've got a dog right there, and oh yeah, there's Sanchez right there. So yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, wow. No, that's crazy.
So, Dawn, if I may ask you, even though you said it was more of a running joke and there's not really a true statistic, but as far as you know, you are not the first, but maybe one of the very first female flight medics to step on Baghdad. I mean, how does that feel to know that, you know, in the history of the army of our nation, that, you know, like you said, I was just a simple girl that was just happy to do my job, and you just happened to. It
was pretty humbling. I'm not going to lie.
To make history,
there was so much that happened on the march up to Baghdad, but to land on Baghdad, and my crew chiefs were like, "Hey, Doc, this is momentous." You know, it was momentous for us, and I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah," and I embraced it for a few minutes for sure. Because, you know, that's what we do. We celebrate the small things, and And we, like I said, a mile off of our nose, there's two A-10s just dancing around with some anti-aircraft fire. And so we shut down the engines and the blades stopped, and we opened the doors and we go to get out. And the 1-3 commander, which is the attack helicopter battalion commander, came out, and he goes, "Hey, welcome to Baghdad." And all this mess is going on. And I'm like, sir, where's my connecting flight? I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be. He goes, "Doc, it'll be okay. I promise. They're just, they're just having a little fun." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then the next thing you know, boom. And I'm like, "They're gone." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." But it's pretty humbling.
Yeah.
They joke about it. Even now, some of us are connected on Facebook or Instagram, and different anniversaries will come through and stuff like that. And
Right.
it's pretty humbling. It really is, for somebody to bring that up. And some of the guys do that every now and again. You're not expecting it or whatever. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's right. It's kind of cool.
So Dawne, from one doc to another doc, was Iraq your first time treating casualties in that type of manner, as far as so severe, right? Amputations, gunshot wounds, burns. Was that your first time?
That was my first. We had landed when we took off from Udari that whole first week. We landed in Talil on an airfield. And I think that the Marine Corps had taken over that airfield, and it was bombed during Desert Storm. And, there he is. Cute little puppy. And, we got the opportunity when the Marines took it on the chin in Al-Nazariya. They were shuttling some of the wounded back to Talil. And I just happened to be in the right place, the right time for a couple of hours. Just we were stuck there. Some of our missions were at night, but it was just helping shuttle people back and forth from one helicopter to another. I think the first patient I touched was a sucking chest wound. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of freaked out. And what felt to me like was almost 2 or 3 minutes actually ended up only being a couple of seconds. And then it was just that rope memorization of getting all of your training together. It came in, and it was just like, okay, this is good. You're cleaning this. You put that there. Okay, now if you can for me, take a deep breath, or as much as you can, or whatever. And you're talking to the guy, and he had sandy brown hair and the bluest eyes I'd ever seen. And I'll never forget his face, and you get him wrapped up, and they're taking him on to the next helicopter, and then the next Seahawk would land. And I mean, we were just shuttling people back and forth at one point, and just making sure that whatever medics forward, whatever interventions they had done were still in place, or if we had to fix something. And then, so those were my first, and it was, man, I'll tell you what, no amount of training could ever prepare you for that. I mean, they train and train and train, and until it just becomes rope memorization. But then again, you don't expect to join the military expecting to be deployed either. I joined in a time of peace in 97, 98. Anyway. Yeah. Me
too.
I joined.
I joined 99.
It was garrison life. Field problems. Yay, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we did that. There was a couple of days that I was walking with a couple of the crew chiefs, because Talil was kind of big. We just ended up walking over because we ran out of rations. We ran out of MREs. We ran out of water. We were sharing MREs and stuff. So our sister company, I was in Bravo company. Our sister company, Alpha company, went and flew back and got a bunch of water and stuff and some MREs, because we had asked the Marines, and they're like, well, hey, we can only get you so much until we can get, all these runways cleared and stuff like that. Because when the Marines had taken over, Talil was just it was so many runways, and then they had booby trapped in between the runways. So they say don't walk in between the runways, and then they were doing hard packed sand and stuff like that. They brought in some heavy equipment and stuff to make dirt runways and that, and so any board aviation unit that's sitting there that really doesn't have anything to do emptied their ammo cans. The guys emptied out the ammo cans, and I don't know whose brilliant idea this was. And then they got rolls of plastic bags. And then they set up this makeshift, they got 2 ponchos and made a bathroom. And they're like, hey, let's lay bets on who can poop in the bag and fling it in between the runways and set off the booby traps.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And yeah,
probably.
They because one of the crew chiefs saw them do something crazy. As soon as we landed, they said, don't walk between the runways, just stay on the tarmac. And I think it was on the far end of Bravo Company. So yeah, we were here. It was on the far end of Bravo Company. A small one had gone off, and there were just flaming bags of shit flying in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a good time. I mean, you right? And we left it. The Marine, I mean, we were bad, but the Marines were not very happy. So when they came through, they were not very happy, because when they finally brought in this long, they explained it to me how it works. This long projectile goes out and it kind of blows things up. Yeah, the flaming.
Oh, soap on a rope. Yep.
That's it.
Line charge.
And with it, all the flaming bags of poo from from aviation. So they didn't really appreciate that.
Adds new dimensions to the term when the shit hits the fan.
Yes.
Definitely. Right?
Yeah. So, I mean, with the bad stuff, this was kind of a way for us to kind of blow off some steam a little bit. There were
unwind
for sure. We had launched for this LMTV had ran in the back of a deuce and a half, and the driver got pinned, and they called us, but amazingly enough, Dust Off got there before us. The unit was able to pull the LMTV back. They were able to help these kids before we got there, but we landed anyway, and the guys come out. It was really cool. So we land like this, and the guys in this helicopter do security this way, and the guys in this helicopter do security this way, and then the medics usually run out with the God, I'm just tongue-tied all of a sudden. With our team leader, who was a warrant officer at the time, and they had already gotten them out and, everything like that. So we were like, okay, cool, no problem. So we came back in, and then these guys collapsed in our helicopter, and the guys in the back collapsed into 557, and away we went. We went to a couple accidents like that. There were a couple times we just picked up, we picked up EPWs, not as a team, but I flew with Alpha Company a couple times. We picked up a couple EPWs, and I ended up cutting my hair. My flight lead cut my hair. It wasn't quite this long, but it hit my shoulders. And we were told that if you're a female, the Iraqis do not want you to treat them. They will not let you treat them. And they wouldn't let me touch them. I mean, I would pull my hair back and then put my helmet on, but they could still see I had long hair. They would not let me. They refused. Right. So we were basically like, okay, then, nope, we're not taking them. Like, we're not having them bleed all over our helicopter. That's ridiculous. We picked up a lot of families. We transported a lot of walking wounded, things like that. So yeah, and then I mean, this was just, there were times that we would bound forward. There was one time 101st took our hardtop, and it was actually good that we were on a plateau, because they were on our hardtop, but there was they were having more issues down there than we were up on the plateau. They had really bad weather and stuff like that, and we were just sitting there, and I was like, oh, okay, this is cool, we'll just sit up here. Yeah. And it just I don't know, one of those things you don't really plan for. And I think that for every bad flight we had or something, there was always something rewarding, like helping people, helping, civilians, when you're flying over to your next spot, to your next fob, really, because we're bounding to Baghdad, we're jumping forward.
Right.
It's amazing. These families, these residents, whatever, they're waving flags and American flags and stuff as we're flying over, and they told us, wave back.
Right.
You're a liberating force. Wave back.
Mm-hmm. Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
So when we first started, I really believed in this mission. I really thought that, we would do some good there. You always know that there's going to be casualties of war. There always is. You can just never prepare for them.
Right.
But I firmly believed in this. When we were at Camp Udari, going backwards a little bit, and the division commander came up and he told us, he said, listen, we're fully expecting to get slimed, to get sarin gassed. It was sarin or something. He says, we're fully expecting it. I don't know about you guys, but we moved out in mop gear with our gas mask on our hip, just in case. And they were fully expecting it. And he said that. And I was in the front row, and I was like, sir, I mean, I said, there's only a handful of us. How are we supposed, this is this is worse than a mass cow. And he goes, Doc, you just do what you can. Mm-hmm. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah. This is an acceptable answer? I was just dumbfounded. But I get it, you just don't know. So we moved out of mop gear, and God, when you had to pee, it was the worst thing, because you had all these clothes on. But yeah, I mean, you looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And
yeah,
no, go ahead. You're good.
Go ahead. No, I remember that exactly. We crossed that line in MOP level 3, which, like Don explained, is, you got your jacket on, your pants on, you got your rubber boots on. The only thing you don't have on is your gas mask and your gloves. And I remember after a week, maybe 10 days of that, I started getting Marines that were having jungle rot foot in the middle of the freaking desert, because the sweat just pulls in their boots. And I'm telling my chain of command, you're going to have more Marines down now. And this was after the Battle of Nasiriyah. So we fought the Battle of Nasiriyah in MOP level 3. I said, we're going to start having more Marines down due to foot issues than we had lost in that battle. I need y'all to make phone calls to whoever. And I told him, I said, I get it. I was just a little E2 at the time. I said, but I'm also your subject matter expert. And I'm telling you right now, us fighting in this gear, we are going to be a deficit to ourselves. We're going to, cripple ourselves. And it was, shortly after that, they said, okay, take off the rubber boots, take off the jackets, but you're going to leave your pants on. And then it was like that for another few days. And it was like, all right, now we're just in regular uniform fighting this mission.
Because they realized that we had gotten so far forward that with the infantry part of 3rd ID coming up this way, you guys coming up this way, and then the aviation assets and the English coming up this way, with the 160th and the Rangers coming down this way from Syria, that they realized it wasn't going to happen. But it's funny, while you guys are in MOP 3, I have a picture when we were still in Talil of a bunch of my crew chiefs and my pilots sunning themselves in their underwear with their t-shirts off. And the caption is,
Of course you guys are.
War as hell. But I do. I have it on my Facebook page. And like I
briefly speaking. Briefly speaking.
No, it's still there. Three. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well,
no, we did it because we
it's a
fucking
hard
repeated
lesson,
it.
apparently. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently it was a hard lesson to learn.
So, and you know what, Don, because you said that you were responding to the Al Nazariya battle as well, picking up casualties from that. And so I don't know what days, but
I just remember, honestly, we weren't flying out. We were receiving the helicopters that, I mean, they were just these poor medics, man, they were so inundated. They come off. I mean, honestly, the real heroes for helping all that mess was the flight surgeon from 1-3 and his NCOIC. And, because they stayed there the whole long time. We didn't find out about it until the latter part of, when some of the latter part of the helicopters and stuff were coming in. And like I said, we were just kind of catching what we could. And man, I'll tell you what, those two from 1-3 Aviation were just the real heroes that day. Like I said, I'm a supporting cast member amongst some really, really amazing people. Those pilots flying in and those guys doing all that, it was just crazy.
Well, if this, almost 20 years later, brings you any more, how do I say this? I don't want to say the wrong. I don't want to say more satisfaction to what you did in the initial liberation or push into Iraq, or if it brings you more closure or brings you, the only way I can explain it is this way. I'm gonna just say it. I call it the continuation of a promise. Young, stupid 21-year-old Luis Fonseca that went and fought in the Battle of Al Nazariya, boots on ground, right there on what we call the front lines, was egotistical and stupid and thought that it was me that saved those Marines' lives, or didn't save them, right?
Yeah.
As I progressed in my Navy career and went and played medic or corpsman on different roles that have different missions, one of them being a support mission like yourself, right? Where you don't have a front lines anymore. It's blurred. I wanted to personally thank you and all of your aviation brothers and sisters, because you all are the ones that continue that promise that I made to my men and women that were bleeding out on the battlefield. And when I said, I promise to get you home, brother and sister, I later came to find out that my promise was carried by people like you. So I want to personally thank you for everything that you and your brothers and sisters do in the air to continue that promise that is made on that battlefield. When you guys come in and it's hot, and sometimes y'all came in without the permission, and I know this for a fact, I did enough missions that some of your pilots would be like, fuck it, we're going in and
we had a
pulling
couple
them out. And if it wasn't for that, a lot of men a lot of men and women would not be having another birthday or Christmas or anniversary or walking a daughter down the aisle. And so from one grunt medic, and I don't take offense to, oh, but you're a corpsman, Fonseca. Yeah, you damn right I'm a corpsman. And I'm very proud of it. So from one doc to another doc, I just want to say thank you for continuing that promise and bringing as many of our brothers and sisters home as we could. So thank you so much, sis.
Honestly, we're just doing what we're supposed to do. We're helping our brothers and sisters, and it is
we're a
exactly.
team, though.
And
yeah,
you know, I don't know how much that, you know, we personally helped, but I know we helped a little bit in our little corner of the world. You know, there's a lot of people that did a lot more than we did, but you know, even sometimes that little bit helps. So it does.
100%.
It does.
Takes us all,
and,
for sure.
You know, that's one thing that our commander, before everything kicked off, he sat there and he told us, he brought the team in and he told us, he goes, we're going to fly you in there and we're going to fly you out of there. And everybody does their job. We remain a team and we'll get it done and we'll all come home. And he's, everybody will come home. We'll make sure everybody comes home. So when he didn't, yeah, that still hits hard.
Let me, if I may, let me just jump in here. Luis has a Navy Cross Challenge coin, and on the edge of it are the initials of with the 18 guys that day, wasn't it, Luis?
Correct.
And the first time I saw that, and he explained to me, I was like, oh wow. So he's memorialized forever those lost on that day. And Dawn, I'm going to pick on you very warmly right now and empathically, as I said I would. Okay, get a Kleenex if you have to. Dawn wears a bracelet with the names of the 6 she lost that day. And if you're up to it, Dawn, why don't you read their names out loud? They will be memorialized this day.
Yes, ma'am. I would love to hear those names.
It was April 2nd of 2003. Our commander, Captain Adamowski. His co-pilot, CW4 Halverson. CW3 Smith. CW2 Jamar. Sergeant Pedersen. And Specialist Boulay. This is my second bracelet. The first one, I wore it completely all the way down past the engraving. Yeah, a lot of the guys are on like their 5th or 6th. I can tell you that it doesn't come off unless I'm having an MRI. It stays on formal events and everything else. But yeah, that was a tough one. And it's funny, well, not as in funny, haha, but funny, ironic, because you remember the strangest things, like when everything started and Captain Adamowski was like, yep, they started a day early, and we're all like, well, shit. You know, you remember how he said he would bring everybody home. Nobody thought it would be at that cost. Maybe. I don't know. I remember CW3 Smith, Chief Smith was the least of all of them that I'd known. But he, the Austin Powers movies, CW3 Smith is a bald guy. And he went up and somebody has a picture. Yeah. Somebody has a picture of him doing this in one of the helicopter windows. and it is memorialized. Somebody put that on one of the pictures, and it was awesome. I remember Chief Jamar playing football that morning. Sergeant Pedersen had given me one of his extra pillows, because you don't think, oh, I'm going to need a pillow. And he goes, hey, Doc, I have an extra pillow. And the two of us would talk about kids. And, I actually bumped with him and a couple of the other crew chiefs a couple of days before their accident. And we were just talking, about I think he had a daughter, and I was talking about my boys. And Matty Boulay was my favorite crew chief. He was, on my first flight, he was my crew chief. And it was just amazing. I remember times when we were at the range and you're out there and it's dark, and all you want to do is trying to get a couple hours of sleep. And I was sitting there, I was laying there, my mouth was wide open, and he starts spraying bug spray. I was like, it was bad. He loved combat lifesaver class because he liked to see the blood spurt out of the catheter when you're trying to start an IV. Boulay, you gotta get that tubing in there really fast, man. Oh, this is cool. Look at this, Doc. Isn't that cool? No, stop it. So when and Chief CW4 Halverson, really super quiet guy. He was best friends with my flight lead, Mr. Wilds. They were best friends. Super quiet. He goes, hey, take all the pictures you want to, because I had one of the brand new digital cameras that was that big and that thick. And he's like, yeah, just download you can put him on here in this little file and on my laptop and everything. He was awesome. He was amazing. And when we came home and we met their families that came to the memorial at Hunter, that was tough. I'm Facebook friends, and I do talk quite frequently on Facebook. People kind of catch up. Matt's sister, his fiance, we're all connected on Facebook. His mom, she's not on Facebook very often, but she does post on the 2nd every year. Her little Matt, and on his birthday and stuff, and on Memorial Day. It sucks. You want everybody to come home. But, and nobody is exempt from losing somebody during deployment. It sucks. You don't expect it. It's like one day you're playing football or you're playing spades in the tent, or you're watching Shrek in the middle of the desert, and a couple days later, bam, you've lost 6 guys. And afterward, the smell of JP8 and hydraulic fluid just turns your stomach. To this day, I can't fly at night. I won't do it. We got up to Baghdad, and we had a flight, and it was near dusk, and I started to panic. I freaked out. And the whole long time, I was flying with a couple different pilots at this point. It was just where I was needed. Hey, we're going on this mission. We want you to come along. Okay, cool. And it was getting ready to get dark. It was dusk, and I was freaking out. I was like, sir, we can't take another mission. We have to land. I have to get off this helicopter. I was in full panic mode. And if it wasn't for him talking to me through this whole thing, and we were, a lot of us were pretty close, that we were all on first name basis and stuff, like a family, when you deploy and stuff. And it's like, it's okay, Dawn. You know what? We're good. We're right here. We know this air road is good. We know that there's nothing on this air road. There's infantry guys right up there. There's armor guys right over here. We're almost there. We're 5 minutes away, you know, and then they started doing the countdown and everything. Look, there's Baghdad. It'll be okay. And they were still having problems in Baghdad, taking pot shots and stuff like that. You know, we would sit up at night. Right. We would sit up on the top of the hangar. And I mean, we had some really cool crew chiefs, and they would have these speakers, and they'd hang wires, and they'd connect it into the radios and everything like that. And we could hear everything that was going on. And Todd Cardone and I were such good friends at that time. I would try and find out sometimes where he was and what was going on with Todd, you know, just to make sure that he was okay. Most times at night, right, you'd see the flares go up. And we were on the west side of the airport, so we were toward the edge, and we'd see flares go up. And I was always asking questions and stuff, and they're like, yeah, these are flares because the infantry guys are trying to move around, or they're, you know, they need extra vision and stuff. And I'm like, wow. And you would hear guys go down and stuff like that. And I mean, people are just screaming. And sometimes it's like, how can you equate it without really saying something ignorant? It's like watching a train wreck or an accident. You just can't stop. You need to know what's going on around you. But at the same time, you can't personally do anything. So it's like agonizing. To this day, there are certain movies I can't watch. But if I had to do it all over again, I would. I don't think there'd be anything I could change, or I would change. Yeah. It's, you know, picking up the guys afterwards. We were staged for Karbala Gap, and Karbala Gap was supposed to be like a 72-hour event. And it ended up being just a matter of hours because so many units had capitulated because they had made, the Republican Guard had, where you guys were at in An-Nazariya, they had left the gap and went down to An-Nazariya. Right. And so we were parked on a road, and there was an armor unit that was driving past, and we had asked them for body bags, and they're like, we have no idea who even has those. You know, we're aviation. What are we doing with body bags? You know, nobody thought to do that. Hell, they had a bunch of AT-4s and grenades in the LMTV. They didn't even disperse them out. They had them all in one LMTV. Gave everybody 110 rounds, put everything in an LMTV, and said, have a nice day. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. You know, so we ended up putting these 6 guys in their sleeping bags. Recovery was a couple days. We knew that there were insurgents in the area. But we weren't, at that time, we weren't sure what happened because there was this lake southwest of Baghdad. There's this huge lake, and on the cliffs were all these plateaus and little hiding holes and things like that. And we noticed coming north, because we had a helicopter breakdown at our last FOB. So we left the 2 crew chiefs there. As we're coming north, the altimeter started going crazy. And one of the pilots in the formation said, hey, be careful going across this lake at night. Because if you have zero illume and you have your nods on, it's just like green jello. You're not going to see what's going on. You have to be really careful.
Wow.
So the first helicopter got over, and the guys just didn't make it. And when the call went out, it was just so surreal. It was like, wait, that can't happen to us. He promised that he'd get us all home. You know, this isn't.
Yeah.
We're untouchable. That's what we thought. Yeah.
It happens to other units,
This is
not our
something
unit.
that other units experience.
Yeah.
This happens to selfishly. This happens to infantry. This happens to armor. You know, things like this don't happen anymore. And they shouldn't happen to us. And
Right.
when it does, man, it just like we were all moving in slow motion. And everybody's looking at each other afterward. And Captain Carlisle, our new company commander, sat us all down as a team, and then, you know, with the rest of the company, and he asked us if we all wanted to continue. And there was not one no in there. It was all resounding yeses. We'll do this for 557. We're going to continue for 557.
Yeah.
You know, so we moved helicopters around a little bit, finished up as much as you can with such a catastrophic accident. I mean, it was just pieces of body parts. You're picking up, you know, it just,
Right.
you know, there's so much a lot of us have just repressed and just pushed back so far that you have to forget it or you'll never move forward. And it's really hard.
Right.
We had a huge memorial when we were up at Baghdad, and I've got pictures of it. It was amazing. It was awesome. And it was so fitting for 6 guys that were brothers and leaders and friends to everybody. And you get the guy that talks about his friend and he's super serious, and you get the guy that talks about his friend, and it's just all the fun stuff, and he gets everybody laughing to kind of take your mind off of the trauma. You know, and I'm one of those people that deals with trauma through comedy. I have to find that light spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I go, well, you know, it could have been worse. And and people look at you and you're just like, I'm just saying, it could have been a hell of a lot worse, you know, and they're like, Doc, you're a little morbid. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you kind of have to be, you know, how, if you just don't look on the lighter side of things, if you can't make yourself laugh, you know, how are you going to make it through anything else? Yeah. And it's, man, they're, I mean,
it's seriously speaking, let me just jump in here. It is a coping mechanism of paramount importance. After staring down, now I haven't been through what you guys have. Let me get that out in the open, but I stare down the barrel of the human condition every day, and most of the people I work with are vets and first responders, and I have taken on the same level of dark, twisted humor. you guys know me pretty well by now, and I'm starting to send funnies to Dawn, and she's still speaking to me. So we're all
They're good.
a bunch of sickos together. But yeah, my favorite character from TV was from MASH, Hawkeye Pierce, and as I've told all of you, if there wasn't a Hawkeye Pierce, there wouldn't have been a Doc Berry. That's how much I idolize that character. But one of his lines that applies here, he's having a conversation with his CO as follows: Henry, if we don't go crazy every once in a while, we'll all go crazy. And I honestly believe that to be true.
Yeah, that is true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That dark humor is, and to me, there's a difference between dark humor and like just insulting or racial or sexism humor. But I do believe that dark humor in those moments. I mean, I remember after a battle in one of my other deployments, and we had a Marine step on an ID and didn't survive the blast. Some of the guys, when we patrolled back to the fob, talking about, we should have brought that piece of his leg because we could have thrown it on the grill and had some steaks tonight instead of MREs. But you use that stuff because that brother or sister so well that they would have enjoyed that laughter as well too. Exactly. And then Dawn, you said something when your new captain came on board and said, "Hey, who's willing to push forward and who's not?" I remember clearly on a convoy I was running in 2005 out of Al-Assad, and our convoy got hit, and my convoy commander was taken out instantly, and I was riding behind them. And they actually wanted to medevac me out. The staff sergeant took over as the convoy commander. Our convoy commander was a chief warrant officer, and then so the staff sergeant stepped in. And he's like, "Hey, Doc, we had two docs on us on that convoy. One rides in the front and one rides in not the very, very, very back, but sort of close towards the back end of the convoy because they're actually driving an ambulance. And I'm just in the Humvee with the convoy commander. And when he came up to me after the situation settled down, literally after the dust settled, because it was I can't think of the name, a coordinated attack. It was an ID with the purpose of an ambush. So once we secured everything, helos came in. And he looked at me and said, "Hey, Doc, you need to get on that helo. They're going to bring another corpsman to finish the ride up to deliver the supplies to," I think we were going to Al Qaim at the time. And it was one of our longer ones. And I remember looking at him and kind of like you said, Dawn, right? Like everyone, when they were asked that day, "Are you willing to proceed?" It's like, you've damn right we are. Like, we just lost some brothers and sisters, but we're going to remember them by continuing the mission, by making sure that this mission gets completed. And it's so for y'all that might not have ever experienced that, it's a very, I take a step back now, and I still think it's a very weird, strange concept to know that either such a serious accident just happened during a mission, or you're involved in direct fire contact and a lot of casualties resulted, and you all just look at each other, and without even saying a word, you already know who is still 100% in the fight. You all know that even after such a tragedy, you can look to your left and your right and be like, "Yeah, my brothers and sisters, we're still ready to roll." And now you've even pissed us more off because you took away someone that we loved and cared about so dearly. And it brings that human aspect. Like you said, he told you he'd bring everyone home. And when you're like, shit, I didn't think it would be at the cost of their life, because, there's certain people on the battlefield, like you said, it just, for those watching and that will watch this, I'm sorry, but yes, there's a certain level of cost that we already expect on the battlefield. And our grunts, we kind of know that. We kind of know, hey, our grunts are gonna, their life expectancy is short. But I feel like when it comes to like, especially a good commanding officer or OIC that's leading a team or whatever, and then your doc, right, your medic or your corpsman, when those go down, it hits a unit differently. It really does. I've unfortunately had some of my junior corpsmen go down after I pushed them out the wire on patrols. And you see the morale of that unit, and you're like, but you guys, you've already lost 5 or 6 or 7 other Marines on different patrols. And when one of them said, and he was a Lance Corporal, so what's that, a private first class in the Army?
Is it
an
what?
E3? PFC, I think.
E3, so yeah, it's a PFC, private first class.
An E3. So in the Army, it's a PFC.
Sorry,
so
puppy.
Shoot, what was I saying about this? About the loss and the... Right. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, not saying that Lance Corporal that, made the ultimate sacrifice doesn't hit as hard, but it is something different when it's a high ranking, your commanding officer, like I said, your doc that goes down, and it's oh, that's what it was. It was the Lance Corporal that said, Doc, but you don't understand. He goes, I just lost my doc. How am I supposed to be able to trust another doc the way I trust him? We've trained together. And I looked at him in the eye, and I was a senior corpsman at that time. And all I could tell him was, hey, brother, you have to trust the fact that the way that I trained him, I trained all the other corpsmen just as well. And they're ready to go out there and be out there with you. So, yeah, Don, I could definitely feel your sentiment about, like you said, when he said we'd bring everyone home, you guys did. You just didn't know that some of them would have to come home earlier in a bag,
we
carrying their bag on their back.
Never ever thought, for aviation, whatever. Yeah, and we're asking an armor unit for body bags. And what's ironic, when I was working at, I've been in Jacksonville 2 years, so this is about 5 years ago. I was at Benning doing just like admin stuff, updating soldier records and things like that. And I had the task to go up and update or sit with the new commander and look at his ER or his ORB actually, and say, hey, yeah, this is we need to fix this here, and we need to fix that there, and blah blah blah. And he saw my bracelet, and he goes, who do you got? He's the MIA or KIA? And I say, KIA, sir. And he goes, oh, where? And I said, third ID. He goes, who? And I told him, and he goes, holy shit. He said, I was in the armor unit that was driving by you guys when you guys were looking for body bags. He said, that was my unit. I was a captain at the time. I was like, I'm sorry, what? He said, you want to talk about a small army.
Wow.
And he was a colonel. He was a colonel now.
Yeah.
When we were sitting there, and I was on his right, his aide was on his left, and then the garrison commander, the garrison command sergeant major, the hospital commander, and a few odd men people, because with VIPs we go to them, and they were all there to welcome him. And then all the civilian staff was on his right, all the military staff was on the left, or on his left, just how he was sitting. It was kind of like an oblong table. And they all just sat there while we were like hugging it out and crying a little bit. And he's like, yeah, we lost a couple tanks and this and that. And, he says, but my God, he says, when we heard we thought, the same thing, never aviation, never, and everybody just kind of
Right.
sat there quietly while we're having a moment. And it was just, he's like, wow, what a small Army it is. And I'm like, yeah, it was shocking, there were, I
And
know.
y'all are the biggest branch of all the services.
It was neat though. I mean, every now and again you run into somebody that was third ID or, that was an OIF-1. And some people like to bow up on you. Oh, OIF-1 was nothing. Oh, honey, that's when war was war. Okay. This crap now with air conditioned trailers. What? Are you kidding me right now? Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were sleeping on the ground. We were sleeping in the helicopter. Our first, that really big sandstorm that came through at the beginning. God, that sucked. Yeah. We were parked
like on
on
March
an airfield. I
26th
think
or
we
the
were still at
27th,
Talil
something like that.
Airfield. And I was miserable. I had just gotten TMI. I had just started my period that day. All I wanted to do was get a heating pad, some chocolate, and curl up in a ball. Instead, I was sitting in a UH-60 Blackhawk with windows that were leaking like sieves because the wind was just blowing all of the sand this way. And then it started to thunder. And so we popped up as many crew tents as we could. Yep. We took all the bags, all the infantry bags and stuff out of the helicopter and packed under the bottom part so that the guys could sleep under there and some could get into the hammocks inside the helicopter. And then we tried to fit as many people as we could in the crew tents. And then it started to rain. And then it started to flood. And everybody was wet and miserable because all of the tents leaked. The helicopter leaked. Under the helicopter leaked. Everybody was wet. And the next day, I would say most of the guys were running around in their underwear because everything was wet. And I had packed all of my stuff in my duffel in a garbage bag. I was dry. I was smart. I was like, well, they may gas me, but they're not going to gas my clothes. It may rain and it may, something was going to come out of their sterile, damn it. And yeah. So that was quite the adventure, and everybody's running around in their underwear and I'm sitting there menstruating and I am just not happy. I'm crampy. I want chocolate. And my crew chief is throwing M&Ms at me. I said, those are not real M&Ms. He goes, but Doc. And I'm like, those are not real M&Ms, dude. They're soy. That's why they haven't melted. He goes, oh, shit. So we ran into the OGA, other governmental agency guys had landed at Talil, and they were actually looking for my senior flight surgeon, Major McGraw, who is this big burly Irishman, Scots. I don't know if he's Irish or Scottish, but he's fantastic. I love him to bits and pieces. I learned so much from him. They were looking for him, and they're like, well, one of his medics is over there. So it happened to be the guy that I had met in Udari. And my crew chief goes, hey, don't get too close. She's menstruating. She's on her period. Okay. She needs chocolate. He goes, you need chocolate? I can get you chocolate. I'm like, no, not that soy bullshit. I want chocolate. He goes, what else you need? I was like, you know what I really want? Black olives. Black olives. I don't know. He's like, sister, I got you. How long are you going to be parked here? I said, well, apparently... Forgive me, Lord, for saying this, and everybody else. Our battalion commander at the time was Colonel Ferguson, and we called it Uncle Fergie's Flying Circus. Excuse me. He had the ground convoy go in a big, huge circle because they got lost. That's the story. but we called it Uncle Fergie's Flying Circus. And I said, we'll probably be here a couple more days. We'd been there, I think at that point, like 3 or 4 days. And he goes, we'll be back tomorrow. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm never going to see this guy again. Whatever. Gave him a hug, kissed him on the cheek. I said, well, you guys be careful. We sat there for about another day. Some Seahawks decided to land in between our helicopters. Well, all of our stuff was laid out, drying. So here's all of our stuff everywhere. And I'm just standing there off this dude's nose, standing on my helicopter, straight off my nose. So I'm kind of to his right, and I'm just giving him the finger. And he's just laughing. They turn on the cockpit light, and they're just laughing. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. So then they leave, and I'm like, oh, God. And we're picking up all of our stuff. Get some sleep that night. We're just like kind of listening to stuff go on. The Marines had their I guess, what do you call it? Like a QRF team, your quick response force team or whatever. They had like taken off like fast. They're like,
quick
hey, we're
response
out.
team, yeah.
And we're like, oh shit, something's going on. And they had alerted us to there was another like small sandstorm coming, and they're like, hey, there's movement. So it's amazing when you have a female with a bunch of men. It's, you know, it's normal for the men to kind of sit there and, okay, where's Doc? Okay, you stay right there. You don't move, so we know where you're at. And we're going to go over here and find out what's going on. So they had everybody do stand to up on the berm. And so Mr. Wild said, get in the helicopter so I know if we have to take off, you're already there. Like, oh, okay, yes, sir. And I sat there. And what it was is they had 100 Iraqi prisoners that nobody alerted the Marines to. Hey, we're walking these guys like 100 feet from your fob. Didn't tell anybody, nothing. And so everybody's at stand to. The QRF just races off, and we're like, holy shit! You know, we're getting ready to just take off if we need to. And they're like, okay, yeah, everybody relax, you're good. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we get some sleep, and the next day, reading Tom Brokaw's Greatest Generation. And sometimes it was funny. Some of the guys would be like, hey, Doc, can you read to us? And it was kind of an escape for everybody. It was really cool. There's this bag of Cadbury chocolate.
Yeah.
Somebody came up from behind me, just in my face, just like this. And it was Cadbury chocolate. I was like, hallelujah. Thank God for good looking men. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. And no, I didn't share with anybody. No, I take that back. He gave me a couple bags, and a couple of the guys were like, yeah, this one is for Doc. But this one, you know, you guys can share and stuff like that. We had to eat it rather quickly anyway, because it was getting warm anyway. And then he goes, oh, he said, black olives, right? And I was like, yeah. Yeah. And he tosses me this can, and it's in all things, it's Greek black olives. Those were the best tasting black olives ever. I was like, how did you get these? He goes, don't ask.
Oh, yeah.
I just got them for you. I'm like, okay, I love you forever.
Yep,
you can marry me now. It was awesome. And it just this whole deployment was like checks and balances of bad stuff and good stuff and rough stuff and fun stuff. And, you know, you always learned. And, you know, so in the middle of a deployment, we got a new battalion commander, and he was absolutely fantastic. And so Colonel Ferguson left, and everybody's looking at all his accolades. He got like 6 or 7 awards, and we're like, are you kidding me? For what? But it was, you know, he did lead a battalion and stuff up to Baghdad and that, and it was his time to go. So he PCS'd back home and stuff, and and I made the comment one time. I was like, you know what? I said, it doesn't matter the accolades that you come from. It's the experience that you get from being here. It really is. Because any one of us would give up anything to have all these people, all these brothers and sisters that we've lost come back to us. It's not about awards. It's not about accolades. It's about having these, this camaraderie and this friendship.
Yeah.
That will span forever. It
is. And that's, yeah. And that's what I love about when people say it's a celebration of life and not like a viewing or a funeral, because it to me, that's how I've been able to, I wouldn't say overcome my PTSD, but start winning that battle with PTSD and the survivor's guilt and all that is just feeling blessed that those men and women that we now share stories about 20 years later can bring us laughter.
Okay.
Right?
Be right back.
Yeah, bring us sadness as well, but they still bring us laughter and joy.
We all got back. And it was just like, you're going home? No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. Yes, you are. No, you're not. Oh, hey, 101st took our aircraft. Okay, fine. And then it was like, hurry up. We're going now. Pack your shit. Okay. And we get home and I had one hell of an NCO. He decided, hey, I'm going to send you to your NCOES course. And I was like, oh, okay. There was like 6 of us from 2-3, and I think a couple guys from HHC Aviation Brigade. And they sent us to primary leadership development course to get our E5. And, we're fresh off a deployment. It's only been a couple months since we've been home, and so we're all dealing with stuff, and we're in formation with kids who've never deployed before. We've got small group leaders that have that had deployed, and they're doing their thing, and some of these guys, because while we were waiting to deploy, the 160th SOAR had deployed to Afghanistan a couple times already. The Rangers have been in and out of country in Afghanistan already, while we're waiting to go to Iraq. So, we have small group leaders that had either deployed to Operation Desert Storm, or they had gone to Iraq and came back about the same time we did. And they're like, okay, here's your orders to go to be an instructor. So we're all, learning how to be NCOs and stuff like that. And then right before the field exercise, the chaplain gets everybody together, and what he does, or his purpose, is to kind of motivate everybody and come together as a team. And what he does is he plays a snippet of a movie, and to try and get everybody to show the camaraderie. And the movie he plays is Black Hawk Down. And we walked out. There were 6 of us that walked out. And one of the small group leaders, he came out, and we're all just like one big like group hug and shit. And he comes over, he says, all right, guys, what's going on? And we're all just a mess, we're just crying and stuff. And one of the guys said, he says, yeah, we lost 6 guys in a helicopter incident in Iraq. And he goes, oh shit. And so we're sitting there, and he sits us all down at a picnic table, and we're kind of talking and stuff. And he's telling us, how he had lost a couple really good friends in Desert Storm, because they were one of the elements that was actually on the ground and stuff, moving around. And not long after, we're kind of talking, he's trying to get us to kind of calm down and talking and stuff. The chaplain comes out, and he says, he made a joke, and it was kind of funny. He goes, wow, I've never had people walk out on a bonding experience before, and we kind of chuckled, and the small group leader had told him why. He goes, well, these are, aviators, and they lost, these 3 guys here lost their company commander. And the chaplain just was gobsmacked. He was like, I am so incredibly sorry. And I said,
Right.
Padre, you couldn't have known. You can't prepare for every eventuality. It is a fantastic portrayal of Operation Gothic Serpent. It really is. It's a fantastic portrayal of that. The camaraderie and how they had to get out of there was amazing. But you couldn't have known, or you couldn't have guessed that happened to us. So he
Right.
he said, I'd like to pray with you all, and bring it. You know, I'm all about it. You know, I'm not the best Catholic that there is, but I try, you know. And it just, it's one of those things that you're a family. And when you grieve together. When you celebrate together. You go through this as a family, not individuals. And, we all graduated and it was great, but man, that one moment, it just kind of, you think you've repressed it enough to go to school and to do these things that you have to do, and you're hit with it again, and you're blindsided, and you're just not sure. Like, I come home from OIF 1 and they started sending people down to Fort Stewart and for help, because we had no mental health availability in theater. Nothing. Well, you know that. There was nothing there. It was, yeah. And there's
Right.
there still isn't. I mean, what war zone, honestly, can you sit down with a mental health technician or whatever and be able to sit there for an hour uninterrupted and talk about, you know, what's going on and stuff? Yeah, that's practically impossible. So they started sending us down to Fort Stewart.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's just as ironic as that one question in the
That thing is
health
ridiculous.
questionnaire, the like post-deployment questionnaire. Do you ever have thoughts of killing people? Yeah, about
right.
a million motherfuckers that just killed 3 of my buddies 2 weeks ago. You damn right I have thoughts of killing people.
Then you're going on.
But if you put that down,
floor.
then you know it's
I have an idea. Yeah. Fly me over there. I won't ask those questions. I think I can handle it.
Right?
I can do a better job than they can. Just get me over there.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll just go there. There you go. So they started shipping us down to Fort Stewart, and this lieutenant colonel, and she was about 5'0". She just started. She was so overwhelmed. She'd never deployed. She never really had to deal with an influx of people that had so much post-traumatic stress. I mean, she's dealing with first-person shooters. She's dealing with physicians. She's dealing with enlisted, corpsmen and docs and everything. And she's so grossly overwhelmed that across the board, she made us all personality adjustment disorder. And I was like, that's what your personality adjustment disorder? I said, ma'am, have you deployed? And she goes, well, that's not what's at stake here. I said, ma'am, let me put it to you this way. You deploy. Okay. You deal with a shit NCO like I had. You deal with a shit battalion surgeon that I had to deal with. You deal with how many guys are in a company? 42 different guys in a company that all have different issues, and they all want to talk to you because you're like a sister to them. You lose 6 of your brothers. You have to deal with all of this other shit. The people that want to shoot you down in your helicopter and basically just shoot you, period. And you're going to tell me I have an adjustment disorder? Of course I have an adjustment disorder. What the fuck do you think I have? And she goes, well, you don't need to talk to me that way.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? You're right. And I got up and I walked out. She goes, if you walk out, I will call your company commander. I said, you know what? Call my brigade commander. Call my battalion commander. Call my congressman. I don't give a shit. I said, lady, until you can get on my level, call anybody you want. And I walked out the door.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I think I have ever said that before, because I was so hurt and so treated like such a second class citizen that I was like, honey, get on my level, deal what we've had to deal with, and then we'll talk.
And it's like being re-traumatized all over again. And in a discussion, Dawn, that you and I had, and I've had a similar discussion with Nate, a similar discussion with Luis, is when you have people in command who somehow don't know what they're doing, or even worse, betray you. That's worse than the combat stress itself. It's like being traumatized all over again.
Yeah, it is.
But even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also like, especially coming from a healthcare provider like her, to me, it also kind of feels, for me personally, I've had kind of the same incidences, Dawn, and I don't want to speak for you, but if it relates to you, please, it almost kind of like, it devalues our feelings. It doesn't, it's like, it doesn't validate, like, no, you shouldn't be experiencing this. You should have come back just as fine. Like, why are you, it's kind of like that. It's almost like quietly saying, suck it up and get over with it. You shouldn't, and that's how I always felt when those comments were made, or, and that's why, and I've spoken to these two gentlemen about this before. I was that arrogant asshole, and not very arrogant. I wouldn't say arrogant as far as like asshole. Well, maybe, I guess so. There's no other way to put it. But I would walk into my psych doctor's office in my uniform. I don't know what the Army calls it, but we call it NSUs now. But but in your BDUs, you don't wear your ribbons. So I would go into my uniform, into those psych offices with all of my ribbons, and when you're talking, because to me, that's how I already went into those meetings kind of feeling like I need to defend my feelings, because I almost know someone's going to eventually tell me, oh, well, you shouldn't feel that way, or this or that. So, okay, if you're going to unvalidate my feelings, I'm going to unvalidate your knowledge by showing you everything I've done. Look at my chest.
And it's funny because this started with this lieutenant colonel, and word got out. Nobody wanted to go see her. I had at the time a fantastic support channel. I had Major McGraw, who was the senior flight surgeon, and I had started with him. He was actually in 224 MI, and then they moved him to Aviation Brigade, and I learned so much from him. I learned sutures. I learned trauma stuff. I learned clinical stuff. I was a sponge. My girlfriend, Maggie, she and I went through AIT together, and she actually got stationed at Stewart, and I got stationed at Hunter she was with Medic. I was with 3rd ID, and then they moved her up to Hunter. And she's like, Dawn, I don't ever think I did very much. And I said, girl, you did more than you realized. Just being there to, she was a mental health technician, and she was just talking to me as a friend, and it helped so much. Before deployment and having to deploy with the NCO and one of the flight surgeons that I did, I mean, that was stressful enough. And then you add on top of that casualties and incidents and stuff like that. I had a flight surgeon when he first got there, day 2, he pulled me in his office. He was fresh out of the flight surgeon course and everything. He said, I've never worked with women, and I don't want to, and I will watch you fail. I will trip you up, and I will watch you fail. And I just stood there. I was gobsmacked. I was like, sir, you don't even know me. He goes, I don't have to. I don't fucking like you. I was like, sir, you don't even know me. How could you say that? He says, I don't think females belong in the military. I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he would sit there, well, I'm in your chain of command, and I'm like, no, you are not. And then shortly after he got there, there was a new NCO that got there, and he wasn't much better. He, all during deployment, and make no mistake, I know there was shit that went down in Desert Storm, and my brother will kick my ass for saying it, but he deployed to Desert Storm, and, you know, he doesn't talk about it. I don't push him to talk about it, but this NCO would sit there and say, I did my time in Desert Storm, so you're going to do this, or you're going to do that. And I had come off of like a 3-hour flight, and I'm still in my flight suit. It's not looking too good. And he comes up to me, he says, hey, change into your camis, get your flak vest and your Kevlar and your M16. You're going on a convoy mission to bring this Cav guy, because we couldn't fly him into one of the palaces because it was one of the amusement park palaces. They said, you're going on this convoy. I said, Staff Sergeant, I just got off this helicopter. And one of the pilots was like, hey, she's at a crew rest. You can't do that. He says, I can do whatever I want. And I said, you know what? It's okay. I'll go. I'll just go. His excuse for not doing something, even on the airport proper, was because he did his time in Desert Storm. He didn't do shit while we were deployed. That was his excuse for everything. And I'm not downplaying.
Yeah.
I don't know what he went through, but he was lazy. No, he wasn't. And they had already moved me to Bravo Company before. When we were in Kuwait, we were at Camp Udari. We were training for the IPR team. And I was in my flight suit. I had my aid bag. And I'm walking on my way to the flight line to do training because the infantry guys had gotten there. You know, we're going to do the big huddle. We're going to go through how to pull security with the helicopters and everything. And my NCO stops me and he goes, hey, where are you going? I'm like, well, I'm going to IPR training. I'm supposed to do it. I'm supposed to do that. He goes, no, you're going to go to the port and you're going to get my Humvee. And I'm like, why don't you have a E4, a junior E4? He goes, well, he doesn't need to worry about that. You're going to go. He says, so you run along and you tell the team lead, the warrant officer, that you're going to go get my Humvee. I did this in Desert Storm. It's your turn now. And I'm like, oh, okay. He says, to go change. So I went to my tent and I changed my uniform. I got my flak vest. I got my Kevlar. And then I made my way down to I walked my little ass down to the airfield. And the chief was like, Doc, where are you going? You're in the wrong uniform. I'm like, nope. Staff Sergeant blah, blah, blah said that I need to go get his Humvee. He goes, that fucking motherfucker. He said, I'm done. He says, I have seen them push you around and we're done. Mm-hmm. He got the commander involved and the first sergeant involved, and they officially moved me from HHC to Bravo Company. And yeah. And he said, no. He says, you go change. I'll deal with him. Where's he at? I said, oh, he's probably laying in his bunk. He didn't pull aid station duty. He didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And he went and talked to him. And I come out of my tent with my aid bag in my flight suit, making my way down to the airfield. And I got hemmed up for 20 minutes by this guy. How disrespectful it was for me to send down the CW3 to chew his ass. And I'm like, Staff Sergeant, I just told him what you told me to tell him that I was doing. I was getting your Humvee. Well, you could have done it. You could have said it differently. I said, well, that's what you told me to tell him. So that's what I did. You know, and it just, I mean, to deploy with this guy and then this flight surgeon from the battalion, it was hell. we were cleaning canvases on the flight line, or behind, actually it was on the flight line, but it was behind one of the buildings. And we were cleaning canvases, and I had actually stood up because the little E4 was cleaning his NCO's canvases by himself. His NCO wasn't out there. So I was like, you know what, let me help the guy out. This isn't his fault, and it's, I'll help him out. Because I was just making rounds to go help out people and make sure everybody's drinking enough water and everybody's doing okay. So I was like, hey, man, do you need some help? He goes, yeah, that'd be great. So I picked up one of the brushes, and I was scrubbing this one side on my hands and knees, and there was this black stuff that wouldn't come out. I said, hey, I'm going to get some degreaser. And I was actually just bent over at the waist, and I was kind of picking the side with my fingernail, and the battalion flight surgeon came out, and he goes, what's wrong, Dawn? Are you afraid to get a little wet? And hosed me down with the water, just completely from head to toe. And I was pissed. I was like, actually, sir, I was going to get some degreaser or some cleaner to scrub this side, but I had just gotten off of my hands and knees, and I was so pissed off, I started to cry. He says, oh, are you going to cry like a little bitch? And I was like, okay, I'm done. I had just had enough. All of this stuff that they have now, like the SHARP programs and the EEO stuff and all, we didn't have back then. You kind of just sucked it up and went on. Or, you kind of told somebody and well, half the frickin' brigade saw it. Or half the battalion, saw it. And they were just baffled. They're like, holy shit, he just hosed her down. And she's helping him out. And I was pissed. I just dropped the brush, and he goes, come back here. I'm not done with you. I said, oh, yes, you are. He goes, I am in your direct chain of command. I said, oh, no, you are not. And Major McGraw came around the corner, and he said, you better stand down, Captain, right now. And a couple of the crew chiefs come over, and they're like, Doc, are you okay? And just started crying. And I was like, they're like, we saw what happened. What the hell? And I was like, I don't know. I just bent over again thinking I could maybe scratch some of it off with my fingernail or something. And I had this brush, and it wasn't coming off. And then here comes Staff Sergeant blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, don't talk to her. Don't talk to her. Come on, let's go. You need to go change. Don't talk to her. Don't worry about what happened. It's none of your business. And I'm like, get the fuck away from me, dude. No, And that's the way these two operated the whole long time before deployment, through deployment. And luckily, I didn't have to see them enough during deployment because I was assigned to Bravo Company. But it was hell. And then coming back home, Doc McGraw had talked to him that I know of a couple times, because he just saw how distraught I was a couple times, and I didn't say anything. But it, like, if that had happened today, I wouldn't even had to say anything. They'd be gone. I mean, I didn't say anything then. Oh, privates now. I mean, so like the SHARP program, the sexual. Right. Oh yeah. And somebody would have turned it in,
or it would have been captured on someone's cell phone.
It would have been a completely different conversation. But at the time, I just wasn't. Which is good. I wasn't the kind of person that was gonna. Which is the right thing to do, right? You know what? And I was bound and determined to show them, hey, you know what? You're not gonna make me fail. Right. I'm not afraid of you. You're gonna piss me off. And when I get pissed off, I cry, and then I cry, and I'm pissed off because I'm crying. But, that's just how it was. So you add all of this shit all together on top of the deployment, and losing your commander and five of the, and you're one of your favorite crew chiefs, and the guy that says, hey, here's my computer, put your pictures on there. And, and it's just like, holy shit. And this emotion, just this explosion of emotion just come through, and I was just done. Right. And yeah.
Exactly. The insecurities.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's because when
Yeah.
we got back to Garrison, back to Hunter, the
And
NCO would tell the clinic, he would tell us at the clinic that he was at the company, and then he'd tell everybody at the company that he was at the clinic, and he's back on the porch sipping tea with his wife in housing, and that's where we would find him. And so he got in trouble for that because something happened and he needed to be somewhere, and they called the clinic, and I was like, yeah, no,
right.
he told me he was at the company. And they're like, oh, okay, he's going to be one of these guys, and all the time. And then the flight surgeon,
Right.
after Major McGraw had talked to him the second time, he said, listen, you are not in her direct chain of command. You are an officer, yes, but you can't make her do this unexpected shit. You can't belittle her like you're doing. Well, if she's going to be such a pussy about it, he goes, no, you can't look at it this way. She's a human being. She's a soldier. And you have to treat her with respect, too, because she's done nothing but stand there and say, yes, sir, and take your shit. And, and it just, and Doc McGraw came to me and he says, Dawn, I tried. And
Right.
man, I'll tell you what, if there was ever a guy that would ever be in your corner, if you gave him 100%, it would be Doc McGraw. I mean, he was just fantastic. Getting ready for deployment, he was right there, and he put in the hours, and everybody that needed to talk while we were deployed, he was right there because he had some training in behavioral health. When we had bad flights, when we picked up EPWs, not EPWs, but when we picked up the kids and the families that were maimed because of crossfire and stuff, and I needed somebody to talk to, he was right there. We were doing AAR. It didn't matter
Right.
what time of day or night, and like I couldn't sleep, and he'd see me down in the aid station. He goes, why aren't you sleeping? I was like, Doc, I'm afraid to close my eyes. And the biggest thing I could have ever done was talk. And for me, when we got back, they had me on 3 different kinds of medication, and I hated it. I had no feeling. I was a robot, and I hated it. Yeah, and like I was in a relationship, and it failed.
Yep.
Because I just, okay, sure, whatever. Whatever. I don't care. You don't. I had my boys.
You just don't give a shit. Yeah, whatever.
Oh God, they were 7 and 10, maybe. I would write them while we were deployed and stuff, and their father wouldn't let them write me back. Their grandmother did. Their grandmother had them write letters to mommy. And man, those were like gold. Those letters were like gold when you get those. And remember, when you're a little kid and you get that lined paper and you do the little stick army men and stuff with the little guns and the little explosions. And there's my son CJ drawing mommy a picture like that and a dead Saddam with a big blood spot and stuff. And I have to say, it's one of my treasured pictures. I love that picture.
Oh.
My brother and I used to do pictures like that when we were younger.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, I don't celebrate death at all. It's just not, no. And we probably, we shouldn't laugh because it is kind of morbid to sit there and laugh about somebody's death, but like a dictator like Saddam Hussein, the boys were told he was a bad man, and and mommy's helicopter killed him. Okay, sure.
Right.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, Dawn, your story with the other countless of thousands of women that have donned the uniform, put on those combat boots, and has left their home and their children, or even if they don't have children, but have left their home, just gives more testament and more power to the fact that yes, women can do this job, and yes, women can do it very, very well. So for those ignorant, dumbass leaders out there that I like to call them that way, Dawn's story is one that you can listen to and realize, you know what? Women are not weak. Women are, can watch our six just as well as a man can. Women can fly into the most hottest of hot zones and see rounds coming in from afar and still have, for lack of a better term, the steel cojones to fly in with that crew and help pull out, our wounded brothers and sisters. So your story lends testimony to that. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I'm pretty sure, yes, there's going to be one of our female soldiers or Marines or airmen or sailors out there that's going to be watching this, that unfortunately, even in 2022, there's some arrogant asshole male that's going to tell them women shouldn't be here. And yet our history is filled with strong women that have helped in major conflicts. And I don't know why right now in 2022 we're still even debating
everybody
this
that's
shit.
Deployed after me, and I consider, what I've done small potatoes. I mean, there's women out there that have done some fantastic things, and man, my hat's off to them. They've done amazing. Like I said, I'm just a supporting cast member amongst some amazing people like yourselves. My dad, I come from a long line of military family. My grandfather was in the Navy. My dad started in the Navy. He got bored of the Navy, went into the Air Force. He was a crew chief on Jolly Green Giants and deployed to Vietnam. And that's where my love of helicopters came from, was my dad. It was supposed to rub off on one of us kids, and it rubbed off on his daughter. But then, my brother's done some great things in his own right too. And, and now I have a son who's, he's a chem guy,
right,
but he's deployed to Afghanistan. He was on the QRF. But it's, I think if anybody was to watch this and come away with one thing, or maybe a couple things, is that, women are out there, and anybody can be a badass in garrison. I mean, I can be a badass in garrison too, but man, I'll tell you what, if it ever came to me or him, and it was you were in the middle of shit and it was me or him, it would be him, because we have too much to live for. And while I never thought that women belonged in combat arms, because my guys, my team, the flight guys, the crew chiefs, all of Bravo Company really, and a lot of Alpha Company that would look for me. And I had a couple friends that were maintenance guys. Every time we landed and we were with the battalion, we were looking for each other. It's natural human nature for a man to make sure that a woman is okay. And I never really thought that women belonged in combat units. And all these women that have deployed after me, and like I said, I'm humble. I am small potatoes. I'm a supporting cast amongst some amazing people, even the three of you as well. And all I really, really want is to be that 33-year-old woman before she deployed. I want her back again.
Yeah.
I've tried psychotropics. I've tried talking to therapists. I've tried talking to counselors. I've done group therapy, and I was the only medic with a bunch of first-person shooters, and that was really interesting because their experience was so drastically different than mine. It is crazy. And I've
Isn't
even
it?
shopped around for counselors and psychiatrists, and it sucks because there are some people that have never deployed and they're genuinely interested or they're curious about what had happened. And when you go to these people, you can tell who's in it for themselves and they're curious about what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's people that want to know what you've done and how they can help you. And so for me, I have surrounded myself with some fantastic people. Before I deployed, I had the Major McGraw saw to it that I could train with the Rangers. And one of the lead medic at the time was one of the medics in Operation Gothic Serpent in Mogadishu, and he was on the ground with those guys. And man, he was revered as a god by these kids. And you can see why. I got to train with some of the 160th Special Operations medics, and Chris Marshall, who retired as a sergeant major and had helped with all of this medicine. There was a doctrine that came out on emergency medicine, and he had a big hand in that. A super knowledgeable, super friendly guy. We're still connected on Facebook, and my girlfriend Maggie, you know, I could pick up the phone and call her, "Hey Maggie," you know, and she's like, "Dawn, I don't know what I did." And I said, "Girl, you were just there." There were a couple times, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan. I didn't want to hurt myself. I have a huge aversion to pain. I really do. But those intrusive thoughts come through and you're like, what would it be like without me? What would happen to my boys? And just when you need that call, you know, sometimes you're in the darkest place and the only thing that you can do is go up. It can only get lighter because you're so dark in your head. And there's a phone call from Steven. "Hey, Mom, let's go out to eat. Let's go to China Walk or Chili Thai or something. I just want to spend time with you." And it helps get out of your head. Or, you know, CJ, my oldest son, would be, "Hey, Mom." You know, he and his wife lived with me for like 2.5 years when he came back from Korea because his pay was all jacked up and it was fantastic. And after they moved out, it was like readjusting again sometimes. And the anniversaries are always the worst. And you're back in that black hole again. And you're like, man, what would it be like? What would happen to my boys and all my stuff and my pictures? And how would people feel? Well, my dad would probably kick my ass and he's dead. You know, my brother would definitely kick my ass. And then there's a call from CJ. "Hey, Mom, Amanda and I want to take you out to dinner. We miss spending time with you. And, you know, you just get so busy day-to-day stuff." They had moved out into their own little place in that. And what helps me is talking to people. I won't do psychotropics again. I just won't do it. I like to feel human. I like that feeling. And sometimes it hurts like a motherfucker. But I would take that any day.
Me too.
Then.
Yep.
Yeah. For sure.
Right.
Yep. And that's
Oh.
then to be a zombie and not give a shit about anything. I 100% agree with you on that. Like, that's one of my biggest things when it comes to taking medication is, recently I got put back on Zoloft, and I love my doctor I'm dealing with now because I told him, I said, I want you to know that I'm in a place right now where I feel comfortable taking medication, and,
Right.
but that's not to me a long-term solution. That's just for me to get grounded again. Give me the proper tools to work with so I can get off the medication and I can have all of my feelings and not just tell my wife, oh, that sucks that our friend's dog just died. Okay, tell him I have my condolences. And, that's really how you feel, right? When it should be more of a, oh, my goodness.
Right.
Our neighbor's dog just passed away, like, wow, let's,
let
do
me,
anything. No, it's just like, oh, well,
let me
them.
just jump in here.
That's not the way,
First of all, Dawn, St. Joan of Arc would be proud. Have I made my point with that one? Women in combat? St. Joan of Arc would be proud.
Actually, it's funny. You mentioned that. My mom and stepdad had given me a rosary. Like I said, I'm not the best practicing Catholic, but if we had enough time during flight, I would bring out my rosary and I would just go through the Hail Marys and the Our Fathers and stuff. And they had put a medal on there of St. Joan of Arc. It's, I totally,
Oh, yeah.
They did that. And
the second thing, for what it's worth, one thing I'm learning from everybody here is, and others, it's very hard to find practitioners, people who do what I do, who know how to work with vets, because it's a rare breed, and conventional psychotherapy doesn't work. You have to. It's a very specialized thing. When meds, and I've told Luis this too, when meds are doing what they're supposed to be doing, they just take the edge off. The real grunt work comes in talking. And I can't tell you how many times I have had vets who have had terrible experiences at the VA, and what they get is they just give them meds, and they say repeatedly, I don't want pills. I want somebody to listen to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. I can't prescribe and don't really want to.
Yeah.
I listen. And I think, and you guys have all heard me say this, the reason why these men and women are swallowing their guns is because the mental and emotional pressures are building and building and building, and they become intolerable. And the only thing that's going to solve it is when the mouth finally opens up and the talking at long last begins, in order to relieve that mental and emotional pressure so that some actual cognition can take place.
Because I can see that.
That's why what we're doing, I consider part of my therapy. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit a lie to anyone, because yes. No, definitely, to remind me, and Dawn, you came, some of the things you said, like, there's a meme that I like to post every now and again, because I feel kind of the way you do is, I was just such a small part of this whole big operation, right? I was just such a small supporting cast member. And I always like to repost a meme that says, I'm no hero,
for sure. Oh,
but
sure.
I'm fortunate enough to say I've walked alongside of a lot of my heroes, and that's how I feel about, and then this, for me, the healing part of it is, I stopped seeing a psych doc because I think it was our 4th or 5th meeting, and I'm, opening up a little bit more to her because, the first meeting, God forbid they ever take your chart
Yeah.
and read it before you have an appointment, so that way you don't have to fucking start from the beginning all over again, right? So finally, after we get through the whole story of how I ended up here, because, the meetings are only 45 minutes long, she looked at the camera. It was during COVID. This is how recent it was. 2001, maybe last year even. It could have been 2021 or 2020. She looked at the camera. She goes, "Luis, can I just say something?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's going on, Doc?" She goes, "I just feel so sorry for you." And I sat back and I stayed quiet. And she kept talking, and I just stayed quiet. Not in my head, didn't say anything.
Yep.
She goes, "I sense I said something that upset you." I said, "Yep, sure did." She goes, "May I ask what that was?"
Yeah.
And I told her straight on up, I said,
No.
"I didn't fucking come here for anyone to feel sorry for me, because I don't feel sorry for myself right now." I said, "I came to have someone listen to my issues and help me get through with this. Apparently, you're not mentally equipped enough to handle the shit that I'm going through, so I'm just going to have to find somebody else." And she even begged me. She was like, "Well, no, give me another chance." I said, "No.
You're one and done.
In my life, I don't have many second chances left. I need to find someone that..." And so,
and that's
it's I don't need you to fucking
when I
feel
was
sorry
like,
for me.
and literally you're shopping for somebody to talk to.
I'm not at all whatsoever.
And like I said, there's that line between their curiosity and there's that line of helping you. And it's funny because I had gotten married after I got out, and I married a veteran, and he had never deployed. And when he did, they deployed him on crutches. He had a patellar reconstruction, and they deployed him on crutches, and he got injured. He got hit with, they were dropping mortars in. And so he suffered TBI and everything. So he came home, and I became that medic again, and I'm reliving all this stuff while I'm helping my husband at the time. And I'm like, holy crap. And you're dealing with mood changes, and your own stuff is coming back, and his mortality has reached a point where you can't have kids anymore, and you're allergic to seafood, and you talk with a weird accent sometimes because I grew up overseas. So I used to hide it constantly. And it was like I could do nothing right. And it was like I was transported right back with that flight surgeon, and right back with that NCO. And I was just like, holy crap. Or right back with my mother, who, if I didn't do something right, she would grab my hair and just yank the crap out of it. And I'm sitting there trying to get help. And the VA is like, well, it's going to be 6 to 7 months before we can get you in with anybody. And I'm like, are you serious? 6 to 7 months in Columbus, Georgia. 6 to 7 months. So I called. We lived in Alabama at the time, in Phoenix City. And I called the Montgomery office, and she goes, well, honey, it's going to be 4 to 5 months before we can even get you seen anywhere in the state of Alabama, at Tuskegee or anywhere else. And I'm like, are you shitting me? And they know, and nobody wants to talk to you.
And then and then no one wants to see you or say
yes.
And no one wants to put you on the books for 6 months, because then it's a liability.
And so they're like, well, we can put you on a waiting list. I said, dude, you don't understand. I am the caregiver for my spouse. Definitely. I am freaking out here. I need a little help. Meanwhile, his mortality is becoming more of an issue, and he doesn't have any kids. So he has an affair. Our marriage is just completely broken. And now he's married to her and has a kid. And I'm sitting here going, okay, 5 years later, I'm sitting here going, you know what? You survived a lot of shit. You didn't need the VA. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm doing pretty well for myself.
Fuck yeah, sister, you did.
I've got a good support channel. And when I need help, there's a few people I can call, but it's like you don't want to burden them because you're having an issue. And I went to the VA, and all the guy did was read from a form. I said, Doc, all I need, right? No, legit. I said, Doc, all I need is something just to take off the edge. Give me something PRN as needed for a little anxiety. That's all I need, because I'm here in Jacksonville by myself. He read from a piece of paper. Do you have this? Do you have this? Have you seen this? Have you experienced this? Have you flown through this? Did you do that? I said, you know what? Let me fill that form out for you and save you the trouble.
Yeah.
I said, this is what I'm looking for. This is what the problem I have. All of my records are in there. Well, I don't have time to read it. And I'm like, are you shitting me right now?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Anyway. My friends, I need to jump in here. Luis
then
just
you're the
put in
wrong
text
provider
that
for me.
he has a 3 to 4 year old person climbing the walls who needs to be fed. It's 9:30 here.
Oh my God.
We've been at this for almost 2.5 hours.
No, it's all good, Don.
Yeah.
No, thanks.
But but that
Yes.
that we would love to have you
Yes.
back on, Don, so we can continue this, sharing your story, empowering women, especially some women that have served and maybe are afraid to share their story because then they feel that, oh, well, if I share my story, then it's just going to feed into the negativity of women shouldn't be in combat. No, because I'm telling you what, there's enough, probably statistic-wise, right? So, okay, 100,000 men serve, but only 100 women serve. But if you speak percentage-wise,
oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure Doc Barry knows better than I do that equally mental health hits us probably just about the same. It's not like men are going to suffer only 25% and women suffer 76%. So see, they shouldn't go.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty
Which
sure
is exactly what I said would happen.
So your
Dawn,
story
did I
is
predict the
a
future
testament.
correctly here? Thank you. Now, a fucked up central nervous system is a fucked up central nervous system, and that's the biological reality of post-traumatic stress disorder. And by the way, thanks for referring, you guys, Nate and Luis, for referring to this as therapeutic. And you notice, which is exactly what I said I was going to do, was sit here and not do much of anything other than listen.
It is therapeutic.
Well, what have I been saying all along
like-minded
here?
individuals like you gentlemen. This has been the best conversation I've had in a very, very long time, especially with guys I've deployed with. Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's schedule one here again soon, and let's schedule another one here soon. And Don, just from, like I said, from one doc to another doc that has hit the battlefield. Once again, thank you so much for carrying on that continuation of a promise to help bring as many of our brothers and sisters that we could back home. Because I, like I said, finally came to realize that my little piece of the puzzle on the battlefield was just a small piece of the puzzle that you carried on. Then that field medical hospital carried on. And then when they got to Germany, to Donstool, those Army medics and corpsmen carried on. And then once they finally got back home, all of the healthcare providers that are rehabilitating our service members now are carrying on those promises that we made almost 20 years ago. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, from a grunt corpsman, a grunt medic, however you want to call me, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for continuing my promise. When I promised my boys I'd get them home, you all came in as the true angels out of the heavens. If it wasn't
for you guys, we wouldn't
picked
have
them
a
up
job.
and took them home for
Honestly,
us. So thank you so much for that.
I mean, it's you guys that do the hard work. We just come in and off we go. But yeah, it's a team effort. Yeah.
But you don't understand No, exactly. And you do not understand when you're on the radio calling in for help and medevac after medevac turns you away. And finally someone says, I don't give a shit how hot it is, pop smoke. And you see and hear those rotor blades coming in. You
It's
do
just
not
second nature.
understand the
You know.
weight that is lifted off of us. Even though you're saying, we're just coming in, swooping in and leaving. No, you don't understand seeing your brother or sister get taken away and you feeling they're in good hands now. They're being taken care of. So it wasn't a small
Thank
part
you.
that you played. Don't ever downplay that, Dawn. I'm being very serious. I mean, okay, I'll use my Navy cross right now for a little bit of that. Besides someone that wears a cross, right? So the only higher one is a Medal of Honor. And I can almost attest, because I know all the living Medal of Honor recipients would tell you just exactly like I'm telling you. We were a small part that you guys came in and saved our asses
Sir.
and our boys and girls' asses on more times. So
No.
don't downplay that. I'm no one
Well, thank
in
you.
this big pond, ma'am, and you
Very
have
much. Yes.
have continued that promise. So thank you for coming on. This has been cathartic. This has been
I
therapeutic.
know, right?
There's a reason why this went on for 2.5 hours, and it's
Standing
only felt
ovation,
like we've been talking
people.
for 15
Standing
minutes.
ovation.
Thank you so much. I'd love to come back. It would be great
Yes.
fun. It would be a good healing
And you will.
time. This has
Oh,
been
definitely,
fantastic.
100%.
I warned a couple of my docs at work
But-
tomorrow. I said, "Hey, I may
You
be
will.
a little bit of a mess, but I'll be there at work." And
So
they're
yeah,
like, okay. So
cool.
yeah, it does.
Whereas, and here's the joke, Dawn, that you don't quite, you haven't been let in on yet.
Mm-hmm.
When these things conclude, my eyes are like golf balls.
Yeah.
Every synapse is like, yeah. My Wednesdays are my long days. I
Oh
do
my
12
gosh.
sessions
Yeah.
back to back to back. And my colleagues say, "Are you out of your goddamn mind?" And I say, "No, at the end of the 12th session, I
Yeah.
am wired. It's hard for me to get to sleep because I want to do more." Gee, I think I was
so.
made for this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It has. Thank you for having me.
I think
this
so,
has been
too.
truly healing with you,
But
gentlemen, all three of you.
Once again,
And
Dawn, thank you so much.
it's, wow, I tell you what, there's been a lot building up, and this has been a good release for
Awesome.
me. It really has. It really, really has.
Awesome,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Todd was right.
That bastard.
Todd was right.
Ugh.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Dad. Damn it, don't you hate it when people are right?
Yeah,
But,
you better go eat.
yeah, like
sure.
like Doc said, I have a 3-year-old that's been telling me it's dinner time and a family waiting, and it's just that's the hard part, me being on the West Coast,
Thank you
3
so
hour
much,
difference,
gentlemen. Thank you.
trying to get it a sweet time spot where, but so thank you once again for your time, Dawn.